Good afternoon, this is Matthew Lindsay with Precision Home Group here in Anchorage, Alaska. It is Thursday, so we are coming to you live today to talk to you about real estate investing. Now, over the last several weeks, over the last couple months actually, we've talked to you about everything from flipping, wholesaling. We talked about some real estate investment trusts, which are REITs. We've talked about small deals. That would be multifamily, residential, single units, single family homes, duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes. Those are multifamily real estate investments that you can purchase with a residential loan. And then we talked about big deals. We talked about, the commercial multifamily, which is 5+ units. And we talked about actually, how we want to see you in 16+ units, the benefits of that, the margins, the cash flow. And the benefits that you see are much, much better than the smaller deals. And then lastly, we finished up on syndication. We talked about how to use and raise other people's money in order to get into bigger deals. And then we actually recapped on some fourplexes, about what we call the fourplex myth here in Anchorage. It's been overbuilt. Fourplexes have been oversold. And we talked about the benefits of buying a fourplex, but also the cons, the negatives, and when you should get in and how, and more importantly, how to get out of that. So today, as you can see by the title, we're talking about things you would never hear a realtor say. Never. I don't think I've ever really heard this besides a couple different places, and when I did hear it, it wasn't from a realtor. It was sort of from investors, real estate investors, people playing with big money, doing big things. This might be countercultural to what a lot of realtors think, how they operate, and what you might be thinking as well. So today we're going to dig into it, get into the negative side, the nasty side. We're going to get into maybe some controversial topics, which I love because then we can actually have an open debate. I love some comments. Let me know if you agree with me, if you disagree, and what your thoughts are. So, to get down to it, what are we talking about today? We are talking about renting versus buying. And I know that a lot of realtors, a lot of real estate agents, a lot of people will talk to you about this topic, renting versus buying, in a way to drum up your business. In a way to, let you know, hey, this home is a great purchase. Let's get you in it. Don't worry about a thing. It's a smart choice. It's a long-term investment. Let's do it. Sign on the line. You got this. Let's roll, right? That's what they say. But today I'm here to tell you, let's question that. Let's actually analyze it, look at it. Does it make the most sense? I'm here today to say renting versus buying. I lean more towards renting. Now, I know that a home is a good choice for some people. It is what they want. And I can't coach a client, I can't coach somebody into getting something that they don't want themselves, right? I can show them all the facts, I can show them everything I've found, all the research, but ultimately, I'm here to serve my client, to help my client the best of my ability. And if that is deep down what they want, and they have all the facts in front of them, you bet I'm going to help them get the home and get it at the best price possible. But as a whole, I want to talk about renting versus buying and how renting, in my opinion, is a better choice. So let's dig deep into this. So renting versus buying. Why would I say that renting versus buying is a better choice? Well, let's look at some of the benefits. Let's look at some of the expenses of each. And I want to show you how I came to this conclusion. So first, let's look at a home. Some of the benefits of a home, when people say, hey, you should buy versus rent, is going to be, the appreciation. They say, hey, that home is going to appreciate. It's going to go up in value, and you're going to build equity that way over the long term, right? Good point. So they also talk about deductions and write-offs, things that you can write off on the home, like interest on the payments themselves, right? You can write that off, and it could be a nice tax benefit for you. Ownership. A lot of people have that pride of ownership, that idea that, hey, I own this versus I rent this. They much rather have the ownership. However, long story short, the bank owns it, you're just paying them for it. less expensive. People think that, owning a home is going to be less expensive. The old nomenclature of, hey, when you rent, you're paying somebody else. You're making the landlords rich, right? That's what we've all heard. We make landlords rich in their sleep. Everyone's seen the quote. It's a great quote. It's not always true, though. And lastly, they say that, hey, if worse comes to worse, if I have to move, if I have to do something else, I could always rent it, right? You got a single family home, I could find someone to rent it to cover the mortgage payments. That's the thinking, that's the benefits, that's the things that people think of first when surveyed, would talk to about the benefits of buying a home. Most of those are true, right? Good points. But the question here is, does the benefits outweigh the negatives? Does the benefits outweigh the expenses? And that's what we're going to dig into today. And lastly, before I dump into the expenses, is, hey, if a home is what you want, then that's awesome. Let's do it for you. But in the back of your mind, do you have bigger goals? Do you have bigger missions? Do you have a passion for something? Do you want to build generational wealth? Do you want to build a life by design? If you do, then you really got to ask, is this investment into a home, is this purchase of a home the best thing for me and my family right now? And I would debate no. So some of the expenses of the home. You have homeowner's insurance, right? So obviously you got, we have rent versus buy. We're on our handy dandy whiteboard again today. So we have homeowner's insurance, which can be pretty expensive depending on where you are, whether you're in a flood zone, earthquake zone, natural disaster zone, if there's been a fire nearby, stuff like that, right? So you have homeowner's insurance. That is an expense. Now, on the flip side, people would say, hey, you got renter's insurance. Yes, this is true. That is an expense if you do rent, right? However, a lot less expensive. So I have renter's insurance myself. I rent myself, and I think that I pay $100, $110 for a year. Stupid cheap, right? So it is expense. I'll put that down here, but it's a lot less of expense. So what is some other expenses? Maintenance is going to be a huge thing in the expense of a home. If you buy a new home, that's great. You're still going to have some things. A lot of times for a year, maybe two after you buy a new construction home, you're going to have that warranty, have the builder come back out and fix all those different little things. But long story short, if you're keeping that home long term, you are going to have some repairs, some replacements you have to do, right? You got things like roof that have to be replaced, whether it's a 15-year roof or a 30-year roof or a 50-year roof, you still have to replace that every so often, right? And, if you're out of the city, if you have a septic or well system, you gotta have upkeep on that. You gotta pay for that. You gotta replace that every so often. We had a home that we recently closed on that the seller, unbeknownst to him, the leach field had to be replaced. That was $15,000 that he wasn't expecting before we closed on the home. So keep that in mind. Also, codes change, right? So if you're in a borough, municipality, city, county, and they decide to change their codes, you're not always grandfathered in, so you may have to bring it up to code when you decide to sell the home. So maintenance cost, right? HVAC system, your water heater, that goes out in the middle of the night. Who's going to pay for that? That's going to be you as the homeowner, right? So you're going to pay for the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. That is what HVAC stands for. So furnaces, boilers, you have hot water heaters, all that kind of stuff. If you're heating by fireplace, you got to pay for the wood and all those different systems, correct? Also, lawn care. Who's mowing your yard? Are you taking the time to do that? Is that time that you could be spent working or growing a business or doing something to bring more income in? Or are you doing that work yourself and you're not charging your time? Some people enjoy yard work. I, on the other hand, don't choose to do it because it's not something that I love to do. Amenities. Does your home have amenities? Do you have a gym? At my apartment complex, I do. I have a gym. I have a hot tub. We have different amenities. I have someone who takes care of the lawn. I have someone who plows for us. I have someone who shovels our driveway. I have someone who shovels my front door. I can call for maintenance anytime I want and have it taken care of same day. And I don't pay any extra. That's in the rent. So at the end of the day, who's going to have more of an expense on their side, right? So we're going to write in maintenance as a big expense. And like we said, that covers everything from all the replacement costs, the lawn care, the HVAC, the plowing, all that kind of stuff, and also the lack of amenities. You know, if you want to put a hot tub in your home, you got to pay for that, right? So, a couple other expenses, big ones here is one, you have the mortgage insurance. So if you're not paying a larger down payment, if you're not getting into a conventional loan, if you're taking advantage of the VA or FHA loan, you're going to end up spending most likely a couple $100, maybe more every month, just so you can have mortgage insurance on that loan until you hit a 20% equity ratio. So you're going to spend more money for lack of down payment, and that's an extra expense. So we're going to write that up there as mortgage insurance. What else? You're going to have a down payment, right? So when you have a down payment on a home, say it's, you know, FHA, maybe it's VA, you don't have any. Well, you still have closing costs you have to cover. FHA, it's only 3.5% down, right? It's still 3.5% down of your home that you have to put down. You know, you can go all the way up to 20% for most loans, even higher on some other loans. So you're going to have some type of down payment and closing costs. You're not always going to recoup that money when you go to sell the home. So keep that in mind as well. You don't get that back all the time. And if you do, you're living in the same place, in the same home, for many, many years to be able to build up that equity. Also, 6% commission when you go to sell the home. In real estate, you know, the average industry commission rates up here in Anchorage, Alaska, and Alaska as a whole is 6% commission. Who pays that? The seller does. So when you go to sell your home, you're going to have to pay 6% of the list price, of the sale price of your home goes to the real estate agents. Do they deserve that? Absolutely. They do so much work to coordinate, to get you the best deal, to market it, to actually get the home sold for you legally and ethically. But that is an expense that you have to incur as a seller. So when you have a 3.5% down payment on your home and you want to go sell that in 5 years, do you think that you've been able to recoup that 3.5% and additional 2.5% for just the commission, not to mention all the other fees involved, right? So we're going to write that down here. Now we can go into some other expenses, but this is a pretty good, generalized idea of some of the major expenses for that. We have homeowners insurance, we have maintenance, we have lack of amenities and paying for those if you want them. We have mortgage insurance, extra money every month for low down payments. We have down payment, and we have the 6% commission. Lastly, the biggest reason, I don't know if you could read that right there, but it says no freedom. If I want to pick up and leave tomorrow, then no freedom at all. So I can't do that. I got to sell the home, right? But when I have when I rent, my lease may be 12 months long, right? I can either I can pay that lease off and then I can go anywhere, whether that's a job that takes me there. I want to leave out of state. I want to move across town. I can just pay off that lease. Or more than likely, you can pay a couple extra months, find someone to take that over that lease. You can do that. You can, get that unit filled for the owner. It's whatever you got to do. But worst case scenario, you pay off the rest of the lease and that's it, right? And then you're done. Rent. What are some of the expenses? So you have renter's insurance. We talked about that. You have the rent itself, which you don't see any of that back, but what you're doing is buying that freedom, able to actually go out and live where you want, how you want, and be able to move to different properties if you want. What that rent also gets you is the maintenance. It also gets you the amenities. If I have something break in the home, I can just call the maintenance and have them come out. We live in a gated community. We have, like I said, we have a gym, we have a hot tub, we have a clubhouse we can go to, we have places to grill, we got a community there. We have maintenance there on site to take care of anything, anytime. That all comes out of rent, no additional cost. So I don't have any worries. I have freedom, right? So these are pretty much, you have renter's insurance and you have rent. What else do you have? You have the deposit. Now, the thing with deposits when you rent, if that place is nice when you leave, if you didn't ruin it, you get that back. Whereas a down payment on a home, you don't get that back, right? So it's maintenance free, you have the freedom to move, and you have amenities. So that's just been a really quick rent versus buy. I believe that renting is a better choice when you're investment minded. When your goals, when your missions in life are to actually invest in bigger things, I personally believe that renting is a better choice for you. A lot of you will disagree with me, but if a home is what you want and you want to raise a family and you want to plant roots, nothing wrong with it at all. Take on the home, on some of those expenses. I know a lot of families that thrive in that environment who that's all they want to do, and there's nothing wrong at all with that. However, if you are investment minded, you want to grow, you want to prosper, you want to do other things, just think about it. That's all I'm saying. Think about it, analyze it, look at the numbers, and see what makes sense. So today, this has been Rent versus Buy. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow, same time.